Ghost dogs for Esau. Ghost dogs are tethered to a world they cannot smell, and mostly just loll about in acceptance, soft chins resting between splayed paws. Their faint, spectral shimmers barely visible to one another, and not at all to the living. Our world of sight and sound is for them a dull world of curt limitations, a vast barren plain of olfactory ennui. All the earth smells sealed behind caulked, invisible seams. Even their own ectoplasm reeks of nothing, and there is nowhere to skitter about with nose skimming the ground as the breeze purfles the topmost hair of a raised, curious tail. All of this they miss with the resignation I'm developing as my hair greys on such an evening, sitting in a municipal park, the sun's oblique rays gilding the silky, reflective, fragrant coffers of even the most raven-haired, youthful beauties. So this poem, which I think was on my original top 10 and Moraine's original top 10, so we didn't have to argue about it. It just struck me because of the air of mystery that's created from the very beginning. Like ghost dogs. What are ghost dogs? And even by the end of the poem, you don't quite know what ghost dogs are, but that's fine. I don't need to know. You know, this isn't science, this isn't history, geography, this is a poem. So you want to know something, you want to develop your understanding of it, but you don't want to know everything. These are some kind of sad relics moving around in a world they can't really experience. There's a nice use of big words, technical terms, that olfactory ennui. Now, too much of that? No. But just thrown in like that, it does, well, it makes you read it very carefully, first of all, to make sure if you're reading aloud that you do get it right. Ectoplasm, that's nice as well. Purfles. I never came across that word before, so I looked it up as you can. And you get away with one or two words like that, maybe in a poem. Nowadays with Google and so on, there's no problem about finding it. And then our world, so our world comes into it. So you know you are in this world. This is not some strange sci-fi place. This is this world. And then suddenly, with about 6 lines to go, the whole thing turns. I comes into it. So this is about I, that poet, whoever the poet is. Hair grey. So I sort of, thought, yes, this could be about me even. Hair greying on such an evening. So you get a picture of this eye now comparing to all these ghost dogs. So maybe the ghost dogs are really humans. Maybe it's about the poet himself. And certainly there's something of the poet himself in it. And then there's this picture at the end of the setting sun, the nice evening, this person sitting in a municipal park. And then there's these thoughts of the raven-haired, youthful beauties. And that's a lovely way to end it as well. It doesn't say any more than that, and those thoughts are there. So you just think, wow. So that's why Ghost Dogs by Patrick Cotter made the top 10, the shortlist. Now the next poem then, which Paddy Hannigan is going to read, is also by Patrick Cotter. And it's called, if my pronunciation is correct, Meath LitLab, depending on which language it is, which I'm not quite sure of. So, Paddy Hannigan is going to read that poem for us. We argued over the pronunciation of this because it's evidently Portuguese. Portuguese wouldn't be great now, apart from Ronaldo. But it's match figures. For penance, he glued sandpaper to the piano keys, red on the ivory, yellow on the ebony, and played what had been their song. A slow Brazilian ballad, sweet in its melancholy. He started with light presses, though the keys still scorched his fingertips, gradually speeding the tempo until he finished the piece in some Rachmaninoff frenzy. He winced and groaned, yelled and cried with each note, making all the noises she complained he never did with her when fucking. He placed the homemade card saying sorry and the digital recording of his remorse in a manila envelope, stamped with wordless crimson fingerprints. there's the element of surprise and wonder at the beginning of this poem. I mean, to start with, for penance he. There's, you know, that immediately makes you think that there's a huge backstory behind this. So some he is doing penance. And then the image of the glue and the sandpaper to the piano keys, I thought that was fantastic. Like the idea of that, and then hurting yourself on this sandpaper, on the keys, different colours and different keys. It's just a great idea. Like, what does it mean? Well, it means, well, I don't know what it means. Or you do know what it means. It means about regret and sorrow and pain of mistakes that you made. All that kind of thing, it's in it without being said at all. He just picks, I think, a fantastic image for that. And it's very carefully used. If one thing you don't get for the readings, and I should have said this in the beginning, is you don't get a picture of the poem on the page. And when you're judging, I've discovered that the first thing that hits you is that picture of the words on the page and how they look. Now this was narrow, a longish, narrow poem. And you look at it and you think, yes, it's going to run along, and it does. And it maintains that same image from the beginning to the end, because it ends up with the crimson fingerprints. So his hands have been worn on the things and so on. So it keeps the image going the whole way, but it wanders, if you like, in the middle, or it switches back and drags things from the past. Like there's that lovely thing about their song. Now there's no more than that really in it. Their song, there's the two lines then, just a diversion, as if he's just thinking, a slow Brazilian ballad, sweet in its melancholy. Which is nice. It's a nice touch. It's a little memory he has as well. Then the Rachmaninoff, that's a nice thing as well. Then that noise she complained about. And then the use of the word fucking there. It's completely unexpected. And it sort of takes you by surprise, but it's not laboured, it's not dwelt on it, there's nothing like that. It's just thrown in as a word that he uses there. So you think maybe there's a lot of anger here somewhere. Is that why he's using it? Possibly. And then there's that wonderful ending, which in the poem is choppy, short lines of one long sentence. He placed the homemade card, saying sorry, and the digital recording of his remorse in a manila, lovely ends there, in a manila envelope, stamped with Horlis. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that. There's no Horals, but you do get an echo of another word in there, I think, as well. And it may or may not be meant, but you can't avoid that other word that's in there as well. Crimson fingerprints on their own on the last line. So it's a fantastic ending, and again, it's a great poem, well deserves to be in the top 10. Okay, number 3 in alphabetical order is Nest by Bernadette Ash, who I think is from Galway. She's not here today, so that poem is going to be read by her.
Nest. Bluebells fade, primroses edge to rust. I urge you on your way, then stand past midlife. Wander the familiar corridor to your empty room. Watch the busy blackbird through your window, hop, stand, listen. Then the pounce to harvest worms, feed her young for the day they'll fly. Empty bedroom, you create no stories on your own. I feel your clothes, they hang there, gather dust, out of date.
Okay, this, as you can see on the page, this almost has a look of being slight. And I think that works against it in the beginning. When I look at it first, you think, you know, there's not much there, is there? So if there's not much there in terms of words, then they had better be good and had better be well controlled. The other thing that slightly worked against it was bluebells and primroses. You know, okay, Marie mentioned themes like autumn and spring, the hackneyed themes which, unless you make them new, you know, we've heard it all before. So if you're going to put in bluebells and primroses, you had better do it well, you had better do it very controlled. And the first line, like bluebells fade. That's good. That's nice, it's controlled, you're not telling too much, we know exactly what it means. But then primroses edge to rust, I think is great. You know, rust has all kinds of connotations, obviously. And then suddenly it's into I. There's a lot of you and your in the poem as well. So there's an I thinking about you or your. Then there's the your empty room. Doesn't say what room it is, but it's made clear later on. So that's stark it's nice. Then suddenly from that room they look out at the blackbird, and that's a nice picture of a blackbird. Again, with blackbirds you have to be very careful because there's a lot of them in poems. There's a lot of, obviously, linnets and thrushes and so on, but a lot of blackbirds in particular in the poem, so you have to be very careful. So it's just a busy blackbird, and it talks about the words, harvesting the words, feeding her young for the day they'll fly. So that has resonance back to the you, the I, and the you as well. And it's a good poem up to then. And you're wondering, where is it going to go? Like, how are you going to finish this poem now without descending into sentimentality, which is always a danger? And it does that by just taking an unexpected twist, which is, it talks to the bedroom. It says, empty bedroom. You create no stories on your own. Now, I assume that the you is bedroom. The syntax and all would suggest that the you is the bedroom. So that's a nice touch. That's completely unexpected to talk to the bedroom. And you create no stories on your own. I don't know what that means exactly, but it's a nice idea to play around with, and it's well done. I feel your clothes. So there's a different you're now. Or it could be the bedroom's clothes as well, because in a sense they belong to the bedroom as well as belonging to the person who's gone. They hang there, gather dust. And then the last line is out of date. Now that's a little bit unexpected too, and it's a lovely way to finish the last line. So it's a slight poem in the sense of, it's not very long, not too many words in it, but the words are extremely well chosen. And that's the reason why it made the shortlist of 10. So that was Bernard. Next is a poem by Maurice Devitt. Paddy is going to read it. It's called Night Watch. Maurice Devitt is from Dublin. He was also on the shortlist last year.
Night Watch. The street darkens at the edges as night seeps in. Dogs have long gone home to bark at themselves through the cover of owners' legs, and cats send out their eyes to check for mice striking home late from work. One tree, taller than the rest, is consumed by a gluttonous moon, and flowers, adrift in colourless greens, hiss short whistles of breath as they turn uneasily in their sleep. The failed magician in number 14 looks for his girlfriend's number, knows he's written it on a card somewhere, but which card? Has got to thinking that she's only half the woman she was. Pulls back the curtains to check the crowd. Not many in, he thinks, and feels the urge to disappear, but 2 doves and a handkerchief later gives up. Watches as the usherette strafes the night sky with her silver torch, fearing the next air raid warning. Already has 2, one verbal, one written, and knows this could be her last. Waits as the neighbours take their seats at bedroom windows, the perfect view for a show that can only get better after last night, when a fox walked wordlessly across the stage.
Okay, nice title, Night Watch. One word, Night Watch, not like the Rembrandt painting, which I think has 2 words in it, but has nothing to do with Rembrandt, apart from the darkness in it. And again, writing about twilight and darkness falling is slightly hackneyed, but it does it well. The street darkens at the edges as night seeps in. So you have this picture of the street, which is lit by lamps, presumably, but around the edges it's all dark. And there's a kind of a threat in that, I think, as well. And then it goes on to what dogs do at that. Or some dogs, or the dogs in the poem at least, do in that. What their effect, or what the effect is on them. The same about cats, that's a bit strange and a bit surreal, but it's nice because it's unexpected. Then there's mention of the tree that's consumed by a gluttonous moon. Now, it's a nice image, even though I'm not quite sure what it actually means, but it's nice. There's the flowers there, the flowers that turn uneasily in their sleep, which is very nice. And you know it's not really about flowers. Maybe the poet himself is turning uneasily in the sleep. Then it goes on to this failed magician. I think, wow, could anything be more tragic? Failed magician. I mean, you're painting here of a magician, but I don't think it's a failed magician. Depends on where we're rabbit came from. But I have a failed magician in number 14 is absolutely horrific. If he's a failed magician, it's really tragic. And then there's the play and the fun that came across very well in the reading about the cards, and he doesn't know where the girlfriend's number is. So that's both funny and kind of tragic as well, if you ever forgot your girlfriend's number. And then the woman who's only half the woman, that's a kind of great joke. And then he pulls back the curtain to check the crowd. And from there on then, it's slightly surreal. We're not quite sure what's real, what's unreal. Is there a show? Are the curtains in his room? They probably are. Or is he imagining a show as well where he's the hero? And then there's the things about disappearing and the dogs and the handkerchief, all that. And the usherette, there's a strange one in it. Strafing the night sky with her silver torch, which is a nice image connected with World War I suppose, and II. And the air raid warning and the verbal warning then and the written warnings is a nice piece of strange juxtaposition there of ideas and so on, almost as if he's just playing around with words and ideas, and I like that. And then he waits as the neighbours take their seats at bedroom windows. You have this strange picture of everybody looking at the street. And then there's the fox suddenly walking wordlessly across the page. And I thought of, the famous Ted Hughes poems, The Thought Fox, where again a poet is trying to write and the fox walks across and so on. And the word wordlessly there in the last line is strange, because if there's a poet there, if the failed magician is actually a poet, which he very well could be, because in a way poets are magicians, and this poet certainly is a magician by the way he's composed this, then if he's failed, well, part of his failure is the fact that he's wordless. So that's why this poem made the top 10. And that's Night Watch by Morris Devon. Next we have a poem by Paul Rigazzi, who's from Dublin and who's here to read it, and it's called Photograph, Shanghai, 1907. Paul.
This poem was written after a photograph which was in the Louvre in a house that we were renting for the summer in France at one stage. As a complete non sequitur on the side, my daughter is teaching in Shanghai at the moment. But so it was nice to be able to send her the poem and say it was on the shortlist. I was at a Greg Delanty workshop at one stage and he was showing the size of his poems, which I always think is not a bad idea, because you know what's coming. A lot of my poems are quite short, so they can be over before they start really. So here we go. This is Photograph, Shanghai, 1907. And coming towards us, the coolie man, the rickshaw puller, barefoot. To his left, a lady, she seems assured. Running to cross their paths, two urchins. Smoking rates, too fast for the sedate empirical chemistry of their time. Time lies on his couch, inhales, holds them momentarily, and exhales.
Yes, again, like one of the other poems I mentioned, on the page this looks slight. So you think straight away it has to work hard. And all these words must work hard. And they do. I love the title. Photograph, Shanghai, 1907. So there's no sense of mystery about the poem, in that sense that sometimes when you read a poem you think, okay, where is it set? What is it about? It's almost as if it's a puzzle and you have to figure that out. And then having figured that out, then you can start appreciating the poem. Now we can appreciate this poem straight away because we know it's about a photograph taken in Shanghai in 1907. So that already gives us some kind of a picture of the kind of texture the poem might have. And then it starts with and. So we get the idea it's a scrap. It's a snap, which it is. It's just a quick snapshot of something. And that's nice. There's 4 lines which have only one word in. Those words have to work hard. There's very precise language, and it's mostly simple language, like the coolie man, the rickshaw puller, barefoot, to his left a lady. So it's precise description as far as it goes there. And then suddenly you get these other two urchins, smoking wraiths. I'm pronouncing that correct. Difficulty with that word. And we know exactly what has happened, that because of technology at the time, these people running across the front are shown not fully formed. And then the poem runs with that idea. Too fast for the sedate, empirical chemistry of their time. And I love the way he uses those words, sedate, empirical chemistry, because that slows you down. Again, they're big words. There are a lot of syllables and empirical, so there's four beats in that. So that slows you down. And if the poem is short and slight, then it demands that you pay attention and that you know exactly what's going on. Chemistry of their time. And then the ending then with the couch and the inhale and the exhale, and that goes back to the smoking wreaths. That's beautiful as well. So this is a poem that's short, concise, and is very, very carefully crafted. And that's why this poem has made the shortlist.